record this. Okay, so yesterday we talked about this a little bit, but the first part of the reading of Moby Dick, we wanted to talk about what Starbuck and Ahab had in common, and the kind of the number one thing is that they had both left family and friends behind to be seamen. Oh, okay. It is sort of mostly for the video recording, but yeah, let me fix that. I did the reading last night. It's not easy reading, I guess. So Lowry, so much going on in the figurative language of this story that it sort of makes it hard, but that's why we're going over it. They left their family and friends. They've left everything behind for their life at sea. And that was kind of the big thing that they had in common. Why did I use that's kind of confusing. All right. And then what does Starbuck represent to Captain Ahab? And you had recognized, did he say this explicitly in the story? Or is that just sort of where you saw it, that Starbuck? Yeah. 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 So he represents Captain Ahab's conscience. Well, the big one, yeah, is when he tries to convince Ahab to turn around and end this quest for revenge and go back home and sort of try to get to know his wife or his children or whoever is kind of waiting for them back there, or to try and have a life outside of the sea. And so he represents Captain Ahab's conscience. And then the second question that we answered here was, why is Captain Ahab obsessed with killing Moby Dick? And we talked about that yesterday, that Moby Dick bit off Ahab's leg in a previous altercation. And so Ahab is seeking revenge on Moby Dick. So what does Moby Dick symbolize? Yeah, evil and death. There's a lot of figurative language around in Ahab's use of rhetorical questions, where he just talks about how he sees Moby Dick as evil, even though it's truly Captain Ahab who is evil, because the motives for his quest are evil. Revenge is evil, that vengeance. Certainly for the sake of pride. Okay, is the crew willing to help Captain Ahab? So this is a yes. The crew is willing to do anything almost for their captain. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right, so last night we should have done some reading of the last 6-7 pages. How'd that go?
I read the one that I didn't read.
So you read Monday night's homework last night. So we still need to do Tuesday night's homework. Okay.
I read it.
It's a lot. Yeah, this one, it certainly is the end. So it's the most desolate part of the story. You know, Ahab is at this point just nearly a madman. While you're reading it, did you catch on to who the only survivor was? It was Ishmael. Yes, it was one of the harpooners. It was Ishmael. And how did he survive? Yeah, so So they were, of course, there's this whole fight with Moby Dick, and Ishmael is actually, he's thrown into the sea with the others when they fall, but he was buoyed up by, there's like a coffin-like buoy that was floating on the water. So he was, I guess, thrown, we'll go with thrown into the sea with everyone else. But he was able to get on coffin-like buoy. So like that's wrong. Is it OY? That looks right. He also wasn't attacked by sharks. Like some of the others. And was picked up the next day. All right, so that's kind of how he survived. All right, so 10 is where we're looking for more examples of Melville's effective use of imagery, similes, alliteration, and rhythmic prose. So the imagery, I think, is the most, the easiest to sort of picture, because that's where you have like the very first two sentences. Let's see here. Get myself on the right page. Shiloh. Oops. Okay, here we go. So at the very beginning, we have, it was a clear steel blue day. The firmaments of air and sea were hardly separable in that all-pervading azure, which is a very rich sky blue. Only the pensive air was transparently pure and soft with a woman's look. And the robust and man-like sea heaved with long, strong, lingering swells as Samson's chest in his sleep. So even right there, we've got varied options. So what do you see? Mm-hmm. Right, and so he uses, with imagery, he uses very specific, in some cases, these are more specific adjectives, but he uses like steel blue, day, the whole day. Azure is used to describe. And what do you think when you hear transparently pure and soft air? Like when we talk about wind, like if it's cold wind, then it's biting, it's cutting. So if something is pure and soft, then it is, you know, like little cotton balls, you know, flowing over you, or a nice soft brush of some kind. So pure and soft means like, or like a fuzzy blanket, maybe, right? Definitely not painful, not uncomfortable. If I think of pure, transparently pure means it is like crystal clear, right? Not a cloud in the sky. There's no fog or smog or anything. So these give sort of this is imagery that gives a clear impression, I guess, of the visual environment. Right, because remember, what are the things that when we use figurative language or we use imagery, what are we doing? We're trying to show things through, right? By describing things that appeal to the five senses. So things that appeal to your sense of smell, you know, the pungent odor of curry, or, you know, if something is spicy, how it feels, how it burns. I know some curry. Ever since y'all talked about going to Curry, now I want to go. So maybe this weekend.
So good.
It is good. Yeah. When Victor took off, when he was sick, Rob came and picked him up and then took him to work with him. And they went to Himalayan Cafe and didn't bring me home anything. So mean. Okay. But yeah, so 5 senses, right? Sense of smell, sense of sight, taste, touch, and what am I missing? Hearing? I said sound. Smell, sound, sight, taste, and touch. Okay, that's it. Right, so in this case, he's giving us a very visual representation. So he's appealing to the sense of sight. How about a simile? We actually have a simile there in that same part that I read. The pensive air was transparently pure and soft with a woman's look, and the robust and man-like sea heaved with long, strong, lingering swells as Samson's chest in his sleep. What does a simile use to make a comparison? That's a good example of personification, right? Because the wind or the air can't have a woman's look. Where? Okay. So similes use like or as to compare two things. So an example of that is as Samson chest in his sleep, the sea rises and falls. So imagine, Samson was massive, right? Think of, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, so huge, but he's laying there in sleep and you watch that large chest sort of rise and fall. That's what the waves of the sea look like as they are out in the ocean. So this is using a simile. So the way the sea rises and falls like Samson's chest in his sleep, whereas he uses as Samson's chest in his sleep. So we make a comparison there. And what is alliteration? That is not the same word, but close. Alliteration is where you're using the repetition of sounds. So alliteration repeats consonant sounds. Right? What'd you say? Button. Yes, a button like a black bubble. Like what's the consonant sound that we're repeating there? Black bubble. So you repeats the B sound. You also have, that's consonant. Let me see. Hoveringly, halting, and dipping on the wing. So the H sound, but then really that one is more the consonants where he uses the ing. There's also, and thus through the serene tranquilities of the tropical sea. So the TT is also another example of that. So repeats T sound. But yeah, there are a lot of those. So alliteration is where to emphasize a point, they repeat sounds because the way that our brains sort of process verbal communication, it catches on to those sorts of patterns and repetitions. And so it helps emphasize whatever it is he's trying to show to us. All right, and what about rhythmic prose? What is rhythmic prose? That's actually sort of what we've been talking about is an example of rhythmic prose. Where it's what is prose? Do y'all know? Prose is sort of a comparison, it's a contrast to poetry, right? So poetry has specific lines, whereas a story is considered prose. So it's just writing. So most books are written in prose if they are not poetry. So an example of rhythmic prose is that second paragraph is one long sentence. Its structure is completely parallel. And so it has contrasting elements like hither and thither, to and fro. These were the gentle thoughts. These were the strong, troubled, murderous thinkings of the feminine air and of the masculine sea. And so they help, it makes it almost sound like poetry, even though it is just a story. So let's look at that second paragraph one more time. I think that's kind of what they gave us in the example as well. Let's see. Yeah. So the second paragraph on page 148, hither and thither on high glided the snow white wings of small unspeckled birds. These were the gentle thoughts of the feminine air, but to and fro in the deeps, far down in the bottomless blue, rushed mighty leviathans, swordfish and sharks. And these were the strong, troubled, murderous thinkings of the masculine sea. And so he's comparing that's like a metaphor. Also, he's comparing the big fish of the ocean that are truly terrifying. Like if you're floating, bobbing on the water and you see this giant shadow, it doesn't matter if it's a shark or a whale or a sort, like it's terrifying. They're huge and you can't see them and you can't move very easily. And so he's comparing these sea snakes and swordfish and sharks to troubled, murderous thoughts, as if the sea were a man and the sharks and such are his more vicious thoughts. So again, there's another example of metaphor. So the second paragraph uses phrases like hither and thither. Gentle. So he's saying that the air is gentle and feminine. Whereas the sea, let's see, what is it he says? The strong, troubled, murderous thinkings of the masculine sea all creates a sense of poetry within the prose writing, just regular writing. Do y'all understand what that looks like what they're talking about rhythmic prose? Like he's creating, right, but it's not even rhyming as much as it is, think about, well, it's like with music, right? Like it has a cadence to it. So you wouldn't say hither and thither on high glided the snow white wings of small and speckled birds. These were the gentle thoughts of the feminine air, but to and fro in the deeps, far down in the bottomless blue, rushed mighty leviathans, swordfish and sharks. These were the strong, troubled, murderous thinkings of the masculine sea. You can write, but I have to really sort of work hard to read it like I would normally read. Instead, it's a hither and thither on high glided the snow white wings of small unspeckled birds. But that whole paragraph is one sentence. It's perfectly parallel. It's perfectly grammatically correct. And it all sort of matches in its context and the way it's written. However, it almost, with the semicolons, which is a lot of times the way that like lines of poetry will end, it almost is like those are more lines of poetry. And the way that it makes you stop after a certain number of syllables also kind of causes you to speak it in a certain cadence. So it makes it like poetry, even though it is just a regular story. Okay, so that's it for the homework and the reading. So if you didn't finish that, go ahead and finish it. So let's move on really quick to the actual writing assignment. So this is the informative essay. And it actually is an essay that was pulled from the test that you would have normally had on this unit. And so it is something that you would be able to write, in maybe 20, 30 minutes. But by answering these questions, hopefully you have some information that you can use to build the paragraph a little easier as well. So what is the theme of Moby Dick, and what do both Starbuck and Moby Dick symbolize to Captain Ahab? So we've talked about the symbolism. And again, make sure that you, like I have in the rubric, when you state what Starbuck and Moby Dick symbolize for Captain Ahab, you do need to kind of have some sense, fill that paragraph with examples, that like Starbuck represents Ahab's conscience because he tries to pull him away from his quest for revenge and instead to focus more on things that he should consider more important in his life, like his family and his home. And then the theme of Moby Dick is sort of they talk about it again in the writer's craft. It's sort of you can go in two different directions. You can say, seeking a quest with bad motives. What is the cost of doing something for the wrong reason? Or it could be, what is the consequences of evil? Because Ahab is seeking to exact revenge on his own terms. And so it kind of comes down to that pride, the pride of man, that he can do something without God. And in his case, he feels like he is owed Moby Dick's life for what Moby Dick had done to him to take off his leg. And it also means that Ahab is trying to overcome evil, or he's trying to overcome death by his own power. Whereas, we know that it is only through God that we overcome both death and evil, the evil within us for sure. And then what are two types of literary devices the author uses? So what are your literary devices? You have imagery, you have simile, you have metaphors. Oops, that's not right. You have personification. You have rhythmic prose. Rhythmic prose. Okay. All of these are kind of the big ones. We don't have a lot of onomatopoeia. We have alliteration. And symbolism, just for kind of some of the big ones. I'm checking the ones that I have on the board here. Up here. Hyperbole, there's not a whole lot of that. Foreshadowing, maybe a little bit of that. But these are sort of the things. So pick two types of these and then make sure that you have a really good example of each and why it's an important example. Like, what does it do to set the mood or communicate a clear visual image of what's going on? Like, why is it a good example and why is it useful in the story? So hopefully that gives you information about this, and do y'all feel good about like the information that you have from the story to answer these questions? And from what we've talked about today and then what you've read, I'll look at what you have tomorrow, and because we don't have class on Friday, you're welcome to turn it in on Friday so you're done. Otherwise you can bring it to me on Monday. But I would, if you get a chance, give me something to look at and I can help you out. Okay, it's due Monday. Yeah, I was going to do it Friday, but that was because I forgot about ODAX, and then I had the guys being out. I knew the guys were going to be out, and so I was going to give them until Monday, obviously, because I'm not going to see them, but then there was ODAX on top of it, and I was like, oh, whatever. All right, so go ahead and get out your grammar books. Actually, just the workbook. You might want your book if you want to check the work, but I want to do exercise 53 and 54. We're going to have quiz number, oh darn, I think it's quiz number 9 tomorrow. Yeah, we can do this. So quiz number 9 tomorrow. So let's do, this is going to be on clauses, coordination and subordination. Reviewing phrases, reviewing clauses. Okay. Yeah, we'll do all of it. All right, so on exercise 53, they've given us sentences and they want us to correct any faulty coordination or subordination. We did not do this one, right? We did 52 yesterday. Yeah, we did 50. This doesn't look familiar to me. So this is on page 24 of the workbook, exercise 53. So number 1, they wrote, Mr. Gooding is a gentleman in our church and who is a florist. So how would we correct that?
You just put Mr. Gooding as a florist.
Close. So he's a gentleman in the church and he's a florist. So make something an A positive. So you could say Mr. Gooding, a gentleman in our church, maybe. Is a florist. Or you could say Mr. Gooding, a florist, is a gentleman in our church, I guess. But I feel like the more important part is that he's a florist. Like maybe somebody has asked what his occupation is, and then they're just specifying that he goes to church with them. So I kind of like it that way better. But their home, oops, is a red brick house, and that has white shutters. These are easy because that's really awkward.
Yeah, you could just put their home as a rented house.
With white shutters, or that has white shutters, just take out the and. That's probably what they want us to do since we're working with clauses. But yeah, you could turn it into a prepositional phrase, but I would say their home is a red brick house. Let's see, that has white shutters. So we just take out the and. Or their home is a red brick house with white shutters. Maybe. Okay. 3, Sam was ill, and so I took his assignments to him. Okay, yep. So I took Sam's assignments. You could also say because he was ill, or because Sam was ill, I took his. Either way, I took Sam's assignments to him because he was ill. I don't think there's a comma there. Sorry. You only put a comma if the because he was ill is at the beginning. You would say because he was ill, comma, I took Sam's assignments to him. But when it's at the end, you don't use a comma. I got that backwards for a second there. Right? Right. My brother set up a stereo system, and then he put on a recording of Walton's Belshazzar's. Wait, I'm confused. Oh, feast. Okay, my broth. My brother set up the stereo system, and then he put on a recording of Walton's Belshazzar's feast. So think of the timeline. What did he do first? Right, he set up the sound system, then he put on the recording. So you could say after, maybe after, or like after my brother set up the stereo system, he put on a recording of Walton's Belshazzar's feast. Or like you said, my brother put on a recording of Walton's Belshazzar's feast after he set up the stereo system. either way. So after my brother set up the stereo system, he put on a recording of Walton's Belshazzar's Feast. All right, last one. I hope I'm sharing this. I'm not entirely sure I did that. Nope, I don't think I am. That's my screen. Sorry. I can pause it and look at that. That's what I've been doing this whole time. Let's see. The reason Samson lost his strength was because he had not obeyed God. All right. So again, we have cause and effect, right? So what's a good cause and effect word? Subordinated conjunction. Absolutely. Samson lost his strength because he had not obeyed. Or you could even include the reason, but I would say that's sort of understood, right? The word because tells you we have cause and effect here. Okay, so exercise 54, let's review phrases and clauses. So in the first blank, write phrase if the italicized group of words is a phrase, and clause if it's a clause. Then in the second blank, you need to write if it's being used as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb, because we can use phrases for all of those things. All right, so for page 24 exercise, why are you being weird? 54. What are you doing? All right, so nope, let's do it this way. Because by loving kindness, why is that one word? It's better than life. So what do you think this is? Is this a clause or a phrase? It's a clause. What would define it as a clause? Not entirely. It has a subject and a verb. Yes. Why are you being difficult? All right. So it is a clause. How's it being used in a sentence? Because thy loving kindness is better than life, my lips shall praise thee. What question does because answer? Why? And adverbs ask the question why. Absolutely. Why? It's just super aggravating. There we go. All right. Next one is the person who fails to do his best in little things cannot be trusted with bigger things. So to do, Yes, because what is to do? It's an infinitive, yes. And that would be an infinitive phrase. So infinitive is phrase. That's what I meant to do. Be nice if I could get that to bold too. There we go. So it's a phrase and it's being used. So the person who fails to do his best in little things. So in this case, the person who fails, what? So it's answering the question what, which makes it, it's a noun, it's a thing. In fact, it's the thing that is person is not doing, right? Dude. Okay. Third one, at the young age of 7. Yeah, that's a phrase. What kind of phrase is it? I mean, It's a prepositional phrase is what I'm asking. Do we see that there's a preposition there? And how's it being used? At the young age of 7, Spartan boys were put under severe military training. Okay, so at the young age of 12, what'd you say? Okay, think about what question is it answering? It's answering the question, when do they get put under severe military training? And adverbs answer the question when. Yeah, with a lot of these, it's actually easier to figure out the question and then that tells you what you've got. Okay, so number 4, Jesus promised the disciples. Oh, why am I doing this? This is one, that he would send them a, sorry, what'd you say? It's a clause? It is a clause. Why is it a clause? It has a subject and a verb, yes. I don't know why that's so exciting, but I'm glad it is. Okay, how's it being used in the sentence? Right, it's answering what Jesus promised. What answers what? No, adjective answers what kind.
Why?
What's a what? A what or a who? It's a noun. Why? Why are you being like this? Oh, my computer hates me. Noun. Yeah, it's a noun. That was funny. All right, number 5. We'll just do number 5. I'm be done. I'll let y'all finish it tomorrow. Yeah, which is wrong morally? A phrase, huh? You don't like the way I say that? Does it have a subject and a verb? It has a verb and you have which is, so you have a subject. It's a clause. Yeah, I'm afraid so. And how is it being used? Now, the nice thing is, which kind of coincides with one of your questions. Which one? It's which nothing, the one that is wrong morally. So yes, it's an adjective. It's like our first little adjective clause here. All right, we'll finish those tomorrow. Do y'all have any questions about the research paper assignment? That's it for the video.
I'm just hoping it actually.